The entire boardroom went silent when the billionaire CEO pushed a chessboard across the polished table and made an offer nobody expected. She was known for buying companies, firing executives without hesitation, and never losing a negotiation. Yet that afternoon, in front of 12 stunned directors, she looked at a quiet single father and said something that would change both their lives: "Beat me in chess, and I'll marry you." What she didn't know was that the man sitting across from her had already lost almost everything once, and he had no intention of gambling his heart again. Before we begin, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that one unexpected moment can change a person's life, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to Kindness Corner 2.0. Your support helps us continue bringing emotional stories like this to more people. Elias Mercer was 38, a single father, and the kind of man most people overlooked in a crowded room. He wore simple navy shirts, polished but inexpensive shoes, and carried an old leather folder that had belonged to his father. Every morning, before heading to work, he prepared breakfast for his 8-year-old daughter, Ren, packed her lunch, checked her school bag twice, and left a handwritten note beside her cereal bowl. Ren had been through more changes than most children her age. Her mother had left when she was 4, saying she wanted a different life and could not handle the responsibility of raising a child. Elias never spoke bitterly about her. He simply became both parents, working long hours while making sure Ren never felt unwanted. For years, Elias had worked as a maintenance supervisor in a small commercial building. He repaired broken elevators, fixed leaking pipes, replaced damaged wiring, and helped tenants whenever something went wrong. He had once dreamed of becoming an engineer, but after his father became ill, Elias abandoned college to support his family. His life had not turned out the way he imagined, but he had learned something valuable: dignity was not determined by a job title. Then one Monday morning, everything changed. The company that managed his building announced that a powerful technology corporation had purchased the property. The new CEO, Serafina Vale, was visiting that afternoon. Everyone knew her name. At 35, she had transformed her father's struggling software company into a global enterprise. Business magazines called her brilliant, fearless, and impossible to read. Her employees admired her intelligence but feared her temper. When Serafina arrived, the entire building seemed to hold its breath. She walked through the lobby in a charcoal suit, her dark hair neatly tied behind her shoulders, studying everything with sharp gray eyes. Managers surrounded her with tablets and reports. Elias was fixing a malfunctioning security panel near the elevator when she stopped nearby. Instead of greeting her with nervous compliments, Elias simply continued working. Serafina noticed. She asked him what was wrong with the system, and Elias explained the problem in simple terms. He didn't exaggerate his knowledge or try to impress her. He even pointed out that one of her expensive consultants had recommended replacing an entire system that only needed a small component repaired. Serafina's expression changed. She asked how he knew. Elias answered that he had spent years repairing things other people wanted to throw away. For some reason, those words stayed with her. Later that day, Serafina discovered something unusual. During a meeting about the company's new office expansion, a senior executive made a complicated financial proposal that sounded impressive but contained a serious flaw. Before anyone could approve it, Elias entered the room to repair an air conditioning issue. He overheard the discussion and quietly mentioned the problem. The room froze. The executives looked offended that a maintenance supervisor had interrupted them. Serafina, however, asked him to explain. Elias did. His explanation was so clear that the financial director eventually admitted Elias was right. Serafina stared at him for several seconds before asking where he had learned business mathematics. Elias smiled faintly and said that before becoming a father, he had studied engineering and spent years playing competitive chess with his father. Chess had taught him to recognize patterns, think several moves ahead, and remain calm when everyone else panicked. That caught Serafina's attention. She invited him to her office. On the desk sat a beautiful wooden chessboard. Serafina explained that chess was the only game she trusted because it rewarded patience instead of charm. She had played since childhood and rarely lost. Elias noticed an old photograph beside the board. It showed Serafina as a little girl standing beside an older man. He asked if it was her father. Her confident expression softened. She said he had taught her chess, business, and everything she knew about surviving difficult situations. He had died several years earlier, leaving the company deeply in debt. Serafina had spent years rebuilding it. For the first time, Elias saw something beyond the powerful CEO. He saw a woman carrying grief beneath an armor of confidence. She invited him to play. Elias hesitated because he needed to pick Ren up from school. Serafina offered to postpone the game. He thanked her but said his daughter came first. That answer surprised her more than anything else that day. A week later, Elias returned to her office after finishing his shift. Serafina had prepared the chessboard. Their first game lasted nearly 2 hours. Neither spoke much. Elias played carefully, refusing to rush. Serafina attacked aggressively, expecting him to become nervous. He didn't. Eventually, Elias won. Serafina stared at the board. Then she laughed. It was the first time anyone in the company had heard her laugh that way. They played again the next evening. Serafina won. Then another game. Elias won. Soon their chess matches became a quiet routine. She discovered that Elias never mocked her when he won, and Elias discovered that Serafina never treated him as inferior because he wasn't wealthy. But outside the chessboard, life remained difficult. Ren's school announced that her science project required expensive materials. Elias secretly worked extra weekend shifts to afford them. Serafina noticed his exhaustion and offered assistance. Elias refused. She asked why. He explained that he didn't want his daughter growing up believing that people with money were responsible for solving her problems. Serafina understood. She had grown up believing the opposite, that money could solve everything. The contrast slowly brought them closer. One afternoon, however, everything went wrong. During a company meeting, several executives discovered that Elias had been spending time with Serafina. Rumors spread that he was trying to take advantage of her. The board demanded that Serafina end the relationship. Elias immediately offered to resign. Serafina refused. Then one board member accused him of manipulating her. Elias calmly placed his resignation letter on the table and said that he would rather walk away than allow anyone to believe he had used kindness as a strategy. Serafina looked devastated. She asked him to stay. Elias told her that he could not stay where his daughter's father's dignity was being questioned. He walked out. That evening, Serafina found herself sitting alone beside the chessboard. She realized something painful. She didn't miss winning against Elias. She missed him. The next morning, Serafina drove to the small neighborhood where Elias lived. She saw him outside helping Ren build a cardboard model for her science project. She watched quietly for a moment. Elias noticed her. Serafina apologized, not as a CEO, but as a woman who had finally realized that control was not the same as strength. Elias accepted her apology, but he told her that he needed something more important than an apology. Trust. She promised to earn it. Months passed. Their friendship became stronger. Serafina began helping at Ren's school charity events, while Elias occasionally visited the company to teach employees practical problem-solving techniques. Neither rushed into romance. Then came the day of the annual company celebration. Serafina brought out the chessboard. Everyone gathered around. She looked at Elias and smiled. She told him that years earlier, she had made a foolish promise: if he could beat her, she would marry him. The room became quiet. Elias looked at her and remembered the first game. Then he looked at Ren, who was standing nearby with a huge smile. Instead of sitting down, Elias pushed the chessboard aside. His reply shocked everyone. He said that if marriage was ever going to happen, it would not be because he won a game. It would be because two people chose each other every day, even when life became difficult. Serafina's eyes filled with tears. She asked him what he wanted instead. Elias smiled and said he wanted another game of chess, but this time, he wanted to play without a prize. Serafina laughed through her tears. They sat down. The room slowly filled with applause. Months later, Serafina and Elias did not have a fairy tale wedding surrounded by celebrities and cameras. They had a small daytime ceremony in a quiet garden, surrounded by family, close friends, and Ren, who carried the rings. There was no billion-dollar display. No extravagant stage. Just sunlight, laughter, nervous smiles, and two people who had discovered that love was not about winning. After the ceremony, Elias and Serafina returned home and placed the old chessboard on a small table. Ren challenged them to a game. Serafina accepted immediately. Elias laughed and told his daughter that she had inherited her mother's competitive spirit. Ren proudly moved her first piece. And as the three of them leaned over the board together, Elias realized something he had never expected. Sometimes life doesn't give you what you planned. Sometimes it takes away the road you thought you were supposed to walk. And sometimes, after years of struggle, it quietly places a new path in front of you. Not because you won. Not because you were rich. Not because you were powerful. But because you remained kind when life gave you every reason to become bitter. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who believes in second chances, and subscribe to Kindness Corner 2.0. Every interaction helps these stories reach someone who may need a little hope today. And before the story ends, comment, "Kindness always wins," if you believe that true love is built on trust, respect, patience, and choosing each other again and again. Because sometimes the greatest victory isn't checkmate. Sometimes the greatest victory is finding someone who makes you want to stay in the game of life.